Hi, all. Welcome to the series of interview questions in front end. So this will be just a recap of whatever the interview questions we saw this week. That is from 19th September to 25th September. I thought some people might have missed the interview questions. I thought this will be a good forum for them to see all those questions, and even if they have seen, it would be better for them to go through them to properly register them. Okay. Let's see them. Thank you.
Uh, so I am starting this playlist where I'm planning to post one interview question per day. So all the questions will be in the front end. So subscribe to this playlist so that you get the questions every day. So the first question in my interview questions playlist is, what is TypeScript and does it execute in your browser? So I come across many people who think TypeScript gets executed in the browser. So if you take first, let us understand TypeScript in general. So TypeScript, if you take, it is a programming language developed by Microsoft, and the syntax, it is a superset. By means of syntax, it is a syntactical superset of JavaScript. It has more methods, more syntax than JavaScript, and it is a strict. Whatever, if you add a strict in JavaScript, it's similar to that. And it adds optional static typing to the language. See, TypeScript is not mandatory to JavaScript. Okay. Uh, if you take TypeScript, as told in the next point, it is just for the development. Okay. It is just to make the development efficient. TypeScript will never execute in a browser. Okay. It is just for development. You have to understand very carefully this. TypeScript is only for the only for development. So once it goes for production, it gets converted to JavaScript. We have many compilers, TypeScript compiler or Babel, to compare to transpile it to vanilla JavaScript. So the TypeScript is only for development, and TypeScript is not mandatory. That's why we have the third point. It adds the static typing to the language so that we are able to find the mistakes beforehand before it goes to execution. Okay. We can, there is a configuration in TypeScript where we can specify that even if there are errors, compile to JavaScript, transpile or compile to JavaScript. So it is just an optional thing. You can very well do it in JavaScript. Only thing with TypeScript is it will make your development efficient by able to find the issues beforehand before it goes to execution. That's it. Okay, don't confuse. TypeScript does not execute in a browser. If you try to execute the TypeScript in a browser, it will say error. Okay, so the TypeScript is only for development, to make your development easier, and you are able to find the issues beforehand.
Hi, all. Welcome to this series of interview questions in front end. Today, we'll be seeing JavaScript only. So, this is something which I found it different, okay, which my assumption was wrong. So, I thought of sharing with you. So, if you take JavaScript, the old JavaScript, you would have seen function, and using the function only we create the objects. And JavaScript, if you take, it is inheritance is also prototypical. If you want to inherit from another object, you need to use the prototype. Okay, using that prototype, we have to inherit. But if you take the native languages like Java or C, you'll would have seen class keywords. But in ES6, you would have come across class keyword. Whether is that something, whether they changed completely, JavaScript design has been changed, they moved from prototypical inheritance to classical inheritance like Java or C++? No. If that was your assumption, it is completely wrong. It is just a syntactic sugar. It is just for for easy writing the code. In ES6 they propose for the class keyword, but under the hood if you take, the same thing happens. It gets converted as a function and then only inheritance. It is JavaScript still uses the prototypical inheritance, that is the object inheriting other object. But if you take native languages like Java or C++, it uses classical inheritance, that is a class inheriting another class. It is not object, a class inheriting another class. Just I will show you an example so that I will make it clear. This is how you would have seen old JavaScript, right? Function. I have a parent function ABC and a child function. And to create a sorry, to create a object, what you do is you have to do new ABC. And if I want the child to inherit the parent and get that A variable, what it has to do is it has to use the prototype child.prototype equal to new ABC. It has to link the object to its prototype. Then only when it gets printed, you will get you will be able to see that A variable inside the child object. Sorry, in the ES6, if you take, it is very similar to the native languages like Java or C++. You will be seeing something similar to this. But you should not assume that the design, the inheritance, the way the JavaScript inheritance has changed. It is just for writing code. For easy writing code, they made it similar to native languages. But still, under the hood, it gets converted like this. Okay. So that's what I wanted to make you clear in this question. So the ES6 class just provides the syntactic sugar for the old way of inheriting JavaScript inheritance. Okay, that is pseudo-classical or a prototypical inheritance pattern. Just syntactic sugar. Thank you. Kindly. Hi all. Welcome to this series of introductions in front end. And today we'll be seeing a simple interview question in JavaScript. This is a very simple question, but many get confused whether undefined and not defined is same in JavaScript. If this is the question, undefined and not defined are completely different in JavaScript. See, undefined if you take, it is a data type. Okay, you understand? Undefined is a data type. Okay, if you go to your Chrome, okay, if you go to your inspection, so just open your console. Hope this is clear. See, whenever you don't assign anything, the default value which is given to a variable is undefined. Understand? So this is given by the JavaScript engine. Okay. The undefined, whenever you don't give any value to a variable, undefined is given by default to a variable. Okay. If you see the type of A is also A, undefined. And undefined like string number, uh, this is also a data type. You have to understand like object string number. Undefined is also a data type. Okay, be sure on that. So this undefined, so most commonly what we do is we set undefined value to it. This is not needed because by default this undefined is set by the JavaScript engine and you are not, as per JavaScript, we are not supposed to give an undefined value to a variable. Okay, it will be set by the JavaScript engine only. Okay, if you want to nullify a value, you can give a null value to your variable, but not undefined. And on the other case, not defined is a error in JavaScript. See, I tried to access something which I have not defined. Okay, maybe G. If I say it gives a reference error, G is not defined. Okay, you understand? So not defined is a error in JavaScript, but undefined is a data type. Understand? Both are completely different. Don't ever say that both are same in JavaScript. Don't think in that matter, in that way. Both are completely different. Okay? Thank you guys. See you tomorrow. Kindly subscribe to get my questions every day. All welcome to this series of intro questions in front end. So today we'll be seeing a simple question in JavaScript. So what is null in JavaScript and what way it is different with undefined or is it same? That's what we are going to see today. So null if you take, okay, it means null is a data type. Basically it is a data type like undefined. Undefined is also a data type. But null we specifically use if you want to nullify a value. That is you may have given a value to a variable, maybe 10, 20 or something, but don't want to have you don't want to have it that value afterwards. So in that case you can nullify that value. For that you use null. But in case of undefined, if you take the undefined value is set if you don't initialize the value. Maybe you leave that as let's see itself. You don't initialize, you leave that as let's see only. In that case, the undefined value is given by the JavaScript engine or JavaScript compiler. Okay. So in that case, the undefined value is given by the JavaScript engine. Okay, engine or compiler. So you have to stress on this. So undefined null is set by a user, but undefined is given by a JavaScript engine. Okay. So we are not supposed to use undefined for nullifying a value, right? Maybe I will show you. Okay, I have just opened JavaScript inspector developer tools. If you set this value and we normally use it if you want to nullify this value. So now the a value will be null. Okay, but in case of b, if I leave it just like this, the undefined value is given by the JavaScript engine. You understand? I have not set undefined value, but it is set by the JavaScript engine. So always understand for nullifying a value, maybe a you have set it as 100, but you want to nullify, don't use undefined. As per standard, it is wrong because this value, undefined value, is supposed to be given by the JavaScript engine only. We are not supposed to initialize. It is not supposed to be initialized by the user. Okay, this is the major difference between null and undefined. Now, what is the let's see type of let's see if you see type of null, you may think type of null will be something different, but it is a object. You understand? The null is a object. So you should not use anything with for testing a value. You should not use this way of testing. You should not use this way of testing because for null also this will return as true. Okay, you understand? Because type of null is also true. If a variable has null also, this will be returned as true. So you should avoid this way of equality checking to check whether a variable has a value. Okay. And in case of undefined, I showed you yesterday also, type of undefined is undefined only. Okay. other thing, in case of equality expression, let's compare equal undefined with null. Okay, so this will be true. If you use double equal to, it will be true because it does not check for type of. So this will be true, but in this case it will be false. Okay, when you use a strict compare equality comparator, this will be true because type of null is different and type of undefined is different. It is object and this is undefined. Okay, this is about equality expression. But in case of conditional expression, both null and undefined will be returned as false only. So, as I told you, both in case of null, it will be returned as false when you use it in a conditional expression. For undefined also, it will be returning false only. So for a conditional expression, both are same. Here also it will be returned as false. So we are not getting that correct printed. Okay. So this is about this question what I wanted to cover. So type of null is object and undefined is undefined. For equality, double equal to will return as true, but when used for strict equality, it will be false. And in case of conditional expression, both will be written in false only. Okay. Thank you guys. Hope you understood. Hi all. Welcome to the series of interview questions in front end. Today we will be seeing yet another question in JavaScript. So this is a simple question. What will return as true in a conditional statement? Okay, this many would have got confused because if you take, for example, a conditional statement like if, okay, many would have used a variable, maybe var dd equal to something, okay, and if, okay, if dd, they would have you would have used and console log some statement you have written inside, right? Hello, something, okay. So many cases you would think that for undefined or maybe for empty string or zero, this will be truthy. Okay, because I also have faced this issue. Like in some cases, I might have thought. Okay, in some cases, I might have thought for empty string. Maybe that I would not have taken into consideration. For I may need for empty string and 0 I wanted to go inside because that is for my application that would be a valid values, so I might think that it should go inside, but it will not go inside because those are all falsy values. Okay, in that case you might have need to do something like this: dd if dd not equal to undefined and dd not equal to null. Maybe you should put specific things. Okay, so in this question let us see what are the falsy values and truthful values in case of a conditional statement like if. Okay, this is the question today. The falsy values are 0. Okay, 0, when you use it inside conditional statement it will be false. Empty string, null, undefined. I think null, undefined, and not a number. This also is a falsy value. All these five values are falsy values. If you use it inside your conditional statement, remember, if you use 0, it will not print. Okay. If you use a empty string, it will not evaluate as true. And in the similar case, if you use NaN, it will not evaluate to true. And in the similar case, undefined and null. This, I think many would know that it will, it is a falsy value. It will evaluate to false. Okay, and null. It will be a falsy values. So the these are the falsy values, but another falsy value is false. That is also very obvious. If you use false also, it is falsy. As you know, it is a boolean. Okay, anyway, it will evaluate as false. Okay, and now coming to the truthy values. Fine, the truthy values are, this is something confusing for you. 0 enclosed in a double quotes, that is truthy, and the boolean false enclosed in a double quotes, because these become string, so these become truthy. And other thing is empty functions, empty arrays, and empty objects, these are also truthy. You may get confused at this. Let me clear it. So as I told you, 0 first, 0 enclosed quotes are truthy because it becomes a proper string. Okay, and similarly false enclosed in double quotes is truthy. And now coming to the empty string, empty function, empty arrays, and empty object. So this one you may get confused. Let me, maybe I put it as empty string. Okay, now this empty string, many would have a doubt why this is evaluating as true. Okay, because the CC, though it is an empty object, it has its properties from the object from where it inherits. Okay, if you put a prototype of this, if you print the proto of this, you will come to know. Because it inherits so much, though it is empty, it inherits all the properties from the object from which it takes the properties by the way of inheritance, prototypical inheritance. It takes all these from the from its parent, that is the object. Even being empty, you can do all these methods. Okay, you can access all these methods. Okay, you can print to string, so much you can print. So you should not think it is a empty object means nothing. It has its own properties from its parent. So this will evaluate to true only. Understand? Just to remember, in similar fashion, the empty array is also truthy. Because let gg equal to a empty array. Okay. Though it is an empty array, the proto, it takes it from the array class. So it will get all the properties of array. Okay. You see push pop, everything it gets from the array with array parent. Okay, and there is a array parent. From this one it gets all the values. Okay, if you put prototype you will get to know. So these are the values it inherits from its array parent. So the empty array is nothing but a array object. So even though it is empty, it has so many things from its parent, which is array, which indeed will inherit from the object, inherit from its parent object. Okay, so you remember, though it is an empty array, it has so many properties, so it will evaluate to true only. Similar is the case with a empty function. Okay, if I put a function here, let no it not be a arrow function. Let it be a simple function. Okay. This function, if you take, will have its own properties from its parent. That is function. It will have its own property from its function. Okay. So function is a object. Okay. Array is a object. Function is a object. So it will inherit. Yeah, the function. Sorry, there is no function class. Okay. So the function will take will inherit from its parent, that is object. Function is a object. So it will inherit from its parent object. So a empty function will also evaluate to true. Okay. We put func here. It will also evaluate to true. Since it is empty, don't think it has nothing. It inherits the properties from its parent. So it has something. Okay. So this is what I wanted to tell you. 0, false, empty function, empty arrays, and all objects. So you in general, you can take like object will have something. So it will evaluate to true, even though it is empty. Okay, you can have it as a general rule. Okay, so hope this is clear. Okay, so I think this will help you when you code in JavaScript so that you don't normally we'll do mistake thinking 0 and empty string 0 mainly the empty string that may be a proper value in our application. You may think that will evaluate to true, but it will evaluate to false. Even empty arrays and empty objects, you may think it will evaluate to false, but it will evaluate to true. Just consider this. Thank you. Have a nice day. Kindly subscribe to get the question. Hi all, welcome to this series of interview questions in front end. Uh, Today we will be seeing yet another interesting question in JavaScript. So you would have heard primitive types, right? In native languages like Java or C++, whether a primitive will have methods and properties, but whether the methods and properties are available in case of primitives in JavaScript. Do primitives have methods and properties in JavaScript? That's the question we are going to see. As you know, in native languages like Java and C++, primitives are just values. They don't have methods or properties. They are not objects to have methods and properties. But how in JavaScript it is possible? How come how come primitives have methods and properties? We will see. First of all, we will try to understand what are primitives in JavaScript. Primitives in JavaScript are simple types like string, number, big int, null, undefined, yeah, boolean, right? These are the primitives. Okay. Maybe if I want to show them, just to open the developer tools. So a primitive is nothing but A is a primitive because it has the string. If you put type of A, it will be string. Similarly, you can have number, boolean, null, undefined. Those all are primitives. Okay. But the question is, this is A is a primitive. But how the methods are available for a primitive? Because all the native languages like Java or C++, they don't have it. But how come a primitive has methods and properties in JavaScript? That's the question right here. So, what really happens behind the scene? Okay, all numbers, all the primitive has wrapper objects. A string as string. Okay, string class, which is a wrapper for the string primitive. Similarly, we have a number wrapper, number class, which is a wrapper for number. And similarly for Boolean also we have a class. Okay. What really happens behind the scene is JavaScript. You would have heard that JavaScript is a very flexible, easy language. So the moment it sees that you're trying to access something out of a primitive, it tries to convert it to its corresponding wrapper class. Since it is a is a string, once you do this, keep a dot on it, you will see all the properties of string. Okay, you will see. But by doing that, will it get converted to a string object, string wrapper class? If you put type of a, it is still a string. What happens to that object which got created out of the primitive? Actually, what JavaScript does it is once it finds that you are trying to access some method, it converts it to its corresponding wrapper class, tries to execute it, and that object becomes garbage collected. Okay, you understand? If you want to access that object which got created of the primitive, you have to write something like this. Maybe hope this is visible to you. Okay, I will just clear on the prototype. I'm just adding to the string class, I'm adding another method to facilitate me to access that object. Okay, I've just add a function get object. Okay, let this be a function which will return this, which will be the object. Okay, just I've added. Now the string will have get object. Now let me do get object. We'll see whether it gets executed, and I will save it in a variable. Now let's print the string object which got returned from get object. So this is the string object which got created out of the primitive. So the moment JavaScript finds you are trying to access a function out of the primitive, it creates a string object. That is the wrapper string object. And that object, since using get object, we are returning that object. We are able to see that object here. Hope this is clear. Okay. So when you get a question like this in your interview, try to tell them that the primitives in JavaScript does not have methods or properties. It is just that JavaScript, owing to its flexibility, converts the moment it sees that you are trying to access something out of a primitive, it converts to its corresponding wrapper class and executes it, and once it executes it, it garbage collects it. It is not available. Okay, it is sent to the garbage, and you still have the primitive with you. Okay, hope this is clear. See you in next question. Kindly subscribe to get the interview. Hi all, welcome to this series of intro questions in front end. Today we will be seeing yet another simple question in JavaScript. This is also interesting question. This is a very obvious question in the interviews.
What are object in JavaScript? Okay. What are object? Whether all are object in JavaScript. This is the question here. What are object in JavaScript? This is a very simple question. You may get it very often. You would have seen an interview question with this question. So what will be the answer for this? So it is pretty simple. Don't confuse yourself. It is just in Java, it is key value pairs. That's the answer for this. Object in JavaScript is just a key value pairs. Okay. If you put a let obj, just this is a object now. Okay. If you put type of obj, it is object. Okay. Okay. Type of obj will be object. Okay. So you can make it also like a key value pairs. So this is your answer for this question. Object in JavaScript is just key value pairs B of 20. Okay. Okay. The property, the value can also be a function. It is need not be a value. Okay. It can also be a another function. Okay. Maybe you can put a console log. Hope this is clear. I just want to make it big. To make it big. Hmm. Maybe we'll take Chrome. Okay. Okay. I think this is fine. So obj. Okay. Let obj can have it a key value pair a of 10. This you can set. You can set a primitive value. You can set also a function, as I told you. You can have a console log inside this. Okay. So I can put func. Okay, here. Okay. And I will close this. It can also be another object. See, you can also put another object here. That is also possible. Okay. This is also can be done. Okay. Now to access any object there, you have to access it via the key. Okay. So this is the key. So via the key you can access anything. Similarly, for executing any function, you will just say object dot b can execute, and you will see the console here, right? Similarly, if you want to access the object, you can put c of c. C will give you the object. If you want to access, go inside it, you can put like that. Okay. So this object is just key value pass. The value can be a property, primitive value, or function, or arrays, anything, or another object. It can be anything. So the answer is very simple. It is just key value pass. Okay. Okay. Another question we have, right? Whether all object or all are object in JavaScript? What is the answer to this question? Whether all are objects in JavaScript? This term you would have heard very frequently. All are objects? No. Okay, all are objects in JavaScript other than primitives. Primitives are nothing but null, undefined, string, number, sorry, small s, okay, string, and then you have boolean, okay, and undefined, as you know, right? Null, undefined, string, number, boolean. Even number is a primitive, right? Other than these types, can even write it here. Null, undefined, boolean, number, string. Other than that, all are objects in JavaScript. Okay, you don't use a capital, it means a class. Okay, so other than this, all are objects in JavaScript. So this should be a question. This should be an answer. Other than primitives, all are objects in JavaScript. Then one question arises whether array is a object. So it means all others are object. It means array is a object. Yes, array is a object. Function is a object. Everything else is a object other than primitives. Whatever you see in JavaScript is all objects. Can show that. Let me initialize a primitive here. Okay, array. I can show you array of 0, comma 1, comma 2. Whether this is an object, if you put type of array, it is an object. Yes, this is also an object. Similarly, if you create a function, okay, function, if you put type of func, it will tell you it is a function, but it is a function object. Okay, this is also a object. Okay, in JavaScript, this only you have to understand very carefully that even functions are object in JavaScript. That's why you can send a function inside another function as a parameter. That is possible in JavaScript. Okay, for a function, you can send another function as a parameter. That's what we call it as callback, right? Maybe you have a function. I put a function. Okay. So to this function, you can send another function as a parameter. You can send this. I have another function. You can send that as a parameter. If you see that maybe to make you understand, I'll just print that AA so that you understand. Okay, and I will call the function. If I call this, it will print the function, whatever is being passed as a parameter. This is possible because even function is an object in JavaScript. Okay, this is not possible in native languages. This is possible because function is an object. So just as a thumb rule, you have it like other than primitives, all the internal structures of arrays, functions, whatever, it is all objects. You can have it as a thumb rule. Okay. Okay. So this is what I wanted to cover as part of today's question. Hope this is clear. Okay. Other than primitives, all are objects. That's what I wanted to say. Okay. Okay. Just to summarize, it is all key value pairs, and in JavaScript, all are objects other than primitives. Okay. Thank you. Kindly subscribe to get the question every day. Thank you. Have a nice day.